Hello there, this is Al24 News live from Algiers. Coming up next in our news program. Russia demands Ukraine ex-Soviet nations to be barred from NATO and sets out tough terms in draft security documents submitted to the US and its allies. Plus, more than 100 US Marines discharged for refusing COVID vaccine as troops across service face discipline, while Air Force has discharged at least 27 members. Omicron variant is spreading at lightning speed in Europe and will likely become dominant in France by the start of next year. Also coming up, tear gas was fired at thousands of supporters of Sudan's opposition forces for freedom and change movement who had gathered in the capital Khartoum on Friday. Prime Minister of Finance Ayman bin Abdulrahman is in Istanbul to represent President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune in the work of the third summit of the Turkey-Africa Partnership. The summit gathers heads of state and government at the Istanbul Convention Center. It is held under the slogan "Strengthened Partnership for Mutual Development and Prosperity." In a keynote speech during the Turkey-Africa Partnership Summit, Minister of Finance Ayman bin Abdulrahman read President Tebboune's message as follows.
Algeria calls for intensifying investments in fields related to supporting economic integration in our continent, similar to what my country is doing in terms of development policies and economic programs with an African integrative dimension, and creating economic corridors that enhance growth and prosperity in the region and open new horizons for our partners, especially Turkey, to invest. Algeria firmly believes in the intertwining of peace, security and development, and in the necessity of adopting a comprehensive approach that makes economic growth a solid dam that limits the spread of insecurity, instability, and the growth of social unrest. My country calls on adopting a comprehensive approach to building and sustaining peace while encouraging targeted investments. We count a lot on the contribution of the African-Turkish Partnership in addressing the root causes of fragility that threaten security and peace and lead to violence and the spread of conflict, especially since our summit will lead to the adoption of a joint action plan for the period of 2021 to 2026, based on 5 important axes. From this point of view, Algeria will continue to support this partnership in order to push the wheel of cooperation between Africa and Turkey to live up to the aspirations of our peoples.
Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad Amtallah Mamra held a working session in Istanbul on Friday with his Turkish counterpart Mevlid Cavusoglu, during which they expressed their satisfaction with the level reached by the economic cooperation, particularly in trade and direct investment. The two parties also agreed during this meeting, which was held at the end of the preparatory ministerial meeting of the third Turkey-Africa Partnership Summit, to intensify their action to strengthen their cooperation. Istanbul is hosting the third edition of the Turkey-Africa Partnership Summit, which witnessed the presence of 16 heads of state and government along with 102 African ministers, including 26 foreign ministers. Hassan Berkani reports.
Several African leaders are taking part in the Africa-Turkey Partnership Summit in Istanbul as Ankara seeks to strengthen its partnership with the continent. At the opening of the summit, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan expressed his confidence in the possibility of raising the volume of trade exchange with Africa to $50 billion through joint efforts, and emphasized that it is a flagrant injustice that the continent with 1.3 billion people has no representation on the Security Council.
1.3 billion people live in the continent of Africa, and this continent is not represented at the Security Council, and that is a huge and flagrant injustice. Africa should rightfully be represented in the Security Council, and for that to happen, I believe that we need to join our forces. The status quo is good and beneficial for some countries, and they may not like what we are trying to achieve. But for the future of our sons and daughters, We have got to be engaged in this battle and in this struggle.
Bugün yaptığımız her şey
The Turkey-Africa Partnership Summit gathers heads of state and government at the Istanbul Convention Center. It is held under the slogan Strengthened Partnership for Mutual Development and Prosperity. The summit comes in light of a sharp decline of the Turkish lira, which plunged 9% yesterday to a new record low against the dollar, amid concerns about the inflation spiral caused by Erdogan's plan to cut interest rates in the face of high prices.
The 12th edition of the Algerian Scholar Award honored the Algerian historian Nasser al-Din Saidoun and his son, the architect Muawiyah Saidoun, to be the first or the Algerian Scientist of the Year, a first time for the two scientists of the same family. Nabil Khazini was there and has more to tell us.
Under the title Algeria has its own scientists, the Algerian Scholar Award has awarded Nasser al-Din Saidouni and his son Muawiyah Saidouni to be the Algerian Scientist of the Year, a first time for two scientists from the same family. Nasser al-Din Saidouni is a historian who graduated from the University of Algiers and pursued his PhD at the University of Aix-en-Provence in France. Professor Saidouni worked as a professor in Jordan and in Kuwait and lectured in many universities around the world, like at the universities of Tokyo, Beirut, Tehran and Qatar, before coming back to the University of Algiers. After that, Nasser al-Din Saidouni left his job as a professor and became a thinker and a historian. He was honored to be the Algerian Scholar of the Year.
I consider honoring me personally a part of honoring my son and all Algerian researchers, academians and intellectuals. My words express the ambition of an old man who lived in the past and wants to live the future through his imagination and hope. Thank you so much for your presence.
His son Muawiyah Saidouni was the second to be awarded the Algerian Scholar of the Year, an architect who graduated from the School of Architecture in Algiers before going to Paris to pursue his studies at the French Institute of Urban Planning. Muawiyah Saidouni studied the French urban heritage in Algiers. He perceived it as part of the French plan to overthrow the old Algerian style of architecture. This concept was called by Muawiyah Saidouni the language of architecture. Saidouni expressed his joy to be awarded the Algerian Scholar of the Year after his father.
I would like to thank the Algerian Scholar Award Foundation for honoring me. The Algerian Scholar Award has a message of honoring science and scientists. Thank you for all of you.
The Algerian Scholar Award Foundation, the organizer of the event, expressed their honor to award Algerian scientists, saying that new editions may be more diversified.
This is the 12th edition for this honoring scholars and scientists from in Algeria in different fields, several different fields, and we are working hard to make these peoples known by our community, our country. Our objective is to discover and to get out a lot of scientific communities. Because we believe in collective works.
The last edition of the Algerian Scholar Award was the 12th edition. Several Algerian scientists were honored with this award, like Abul Qasim Saadallah, Kamal Yusuf Toumi and Belqasim Habba.
According to Human Rights Watch in Western Sahara, Moroccan authorities continue to harass activists supporting Sahrawi self-determination, prevent gatherings and obstruct the work of local human rights non-governmental organizations. In the same line of thoughts, in the hours leading up to the Saturday's FIFA Arab Cup match between Algeria and Morocco, Al Uyun was deadly quiet. Moroccan authorities had issued a curfew in Western Sahara's largest city, with cafes, restaurants and any venues that might show football game closed for business. Western Sahrawi citizens came out onto the streets to celebrate, but as journalists and human rights defenders told Middle East Eye, Moroccan security and police forces were waiting for them, attacking some Sahrawis, detaining and beating others as a police headquarters. Russia presented proposals to reduce tension with the West to radically reduce the influence of the United States and NATO in the countries of the former Soviet Union. In return, Washington expressed its willingness to discuss the proposals, but in consultation with its European allies. Hussein Berkan on what follow.
Russia presented Friday two proposals to reduce the influence of the United States and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization NATO in its neighborhood, calling for the start of talks as soon as possible to prevent an escalation of tension in Europe. The unusual Russian move in terms of diplomats publishing documents in public comes amid growing Western concerns about Moscow's intentions in Ukraine and fears of a possible Russian military attacks on it. Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov stated in Moscow that Russia is ready to begin talks on security guarantees with the US immediately.
We trust that, on the basis of our draft treaty and agreement, the United States will enter into serious negotiations with Russia in the very near future. We are ready to go to a third country for talks with the United States immediately, even if it's tomorrow, literally tomorrow. The crucial talks should be based on two draft documents that we are looking forward to promoting and expecting a constructive response from the US. We say we need to get security guarantees, and they tell us withdraw troops within our own territory. But thank God, they don't tell us yet to what distance we should withdraw.
Russia's demands, which West experts characterized as maximalist and unlikely to be accepted, including the following legal commitment from the US and NATO.
No eastern expansion of NATO. No military cooperation with former Soviet states, including Ukraine and other countries in Eastern Europe, the South Caucasus, and Central Asia. Withdrawal of forces to position NATO occupied in 1997 before the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, Bulgaria, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Albania, Croatia, Montenegro, and North Macedonia were members. No deploying armed forces, heavy bombers, surface warships, or intermediate range and shorter range missiles outside of NATO territory.
For its part, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg stated that NATO is prepared to work on strengthening confidence-building measures should Russia take concrete steps to reduce tensions.
We have received Russia's recent proposals. We are clear that any dialogue with Russia would also need to address NATO's concerns about Russia's actions, be based on the core principles and documents of European security, and take place in consultation with NATO's European partners, such as Ukraine. NATO allies have also made clear that should Russia take concrete steps to reduce tensions, we are prepared to work on strengthening confidence-building measures.
These proposals come after last week's virtual summit between US President Joe Biden and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin, where Putin revealed that Moscow is interested in getting firm legal guarantees from its Western partners.
All of the U.S. military services have now begun disciplinary actions and discharges of troops who have refused to get the mandated coronavirus vaccine, with as many as 20,000 unvaccinated forces at risk of being removed from service. The Marine Corps said it has discharged 103 Marines so far for refusing the vaccine, and for the Army said it has reprimanded more than 2,700 soldiers and will begin discharge proceedings in January. And COVID-19 case rates are holding at a high rate in the U.S. More than 121,000 new COVID-19 cases and 1,286 deaths are recorded every day, along with over 6,800 people currently hospitalized with COVID-19. New York State reported the highest single-day count of new COVID-19 cases with 21,027.
And I thank everyone who's doing the responsible thing, not just for themselves, but their coworkers, their customers, their friends, and their families, by getting vaccinated, getting the booster shot. Please get boosted. We need that extra layer of protection. And those who are wearing the mask, I thank you. I don't take this for granted. I thank you for being so supportive of our effort to make sure that we, number one, protect the health of New Yorkers, but number two, we protect the health of our economy.
And this is just in as Algeria is playing against Tunis. The Algerian player Amir Saidoun has scored against Tunis. And now moving on to another story. According to French Premier Jean Castex, Omicron variant is growing at lightning pace across Europe and will likely become dominant in France by the start of next year. Meanwhile, France is lightening the rules of UK holidaymakers over worries about the increase in COVID cases. Islam Seed on what followed.
French Prime Minister Jean Castex warned on Friday, hours before France imposed new restrictions on travelers coming from the United Kingdom, which the latter has so far been exposed to the hardest hit in the region, with nearly 15,000 confirmed Omicron cases. Starting from 17 December, visitors to France must give a compelling reason to enter the country. This applies whether or not they are fully vaccinated. No travel for tourism or business reasons. All travels from the UK must register the address where they will stay. All arrivals will have to provide a negative COVID test less than 24 hours old and isolate for at least 2 days if they have a second negative test. The restrictions do not apply to French nationals, their spouses and their children. According to the latest EU statistics, Europe has already witnessed more than 89 million cases and 1.5 million COVID-related deaths. France is not the only country tightening its controls. Earlier this week, Italy, Greece and Portugal announced that visitors from EU will need to present a negative test result on arrival, even those who have been vaccinated. Hours before the new rules applied, Mr. Castex said the voyage limits were part of a sequence of procedures being brought in to stem the tide of infections. They contain shortening the gap between the second and third dose of vaccine and demanding a full vaccination to enter restaurants in addition to long-distance public transport. All official New Year's Eve celebrations and fireworks shows were annulled. Mr. Castex also said his government would put new phases to tackle vaccine hesitancy next year, in which he said that not acceptable that the refusal of few million French people to be vaccinated puts the life of an entire country at risk. On Saturday, France's health minister, Olivier Véran, stated that between 7 and 10% of new confirmed infections in the country are believed to be the Omicron variant.
And for more news concerning the spread of Omicron, let's follow this report by Zahra Farjani.
A new study by the Imperial College London suggests that the risk of COVID-19 reinfection is more than 5 times higher with Omicron than with the Delta variant. Researchers said that there was no sign that the infections were any milder, though data on hospitalization is still very limited. The number of COVID cases in the UK broke records for a third consecutive day on Friday, after infections surpassed 93,000 for the first time since March 2020, with the fast-spreading Omicron variant intensifying concerns over the trajectory of the pandemic. Irish authorities have announced a fresh list of restrictions to contain the spread of the Omicron variant amid the global surge of the COVID cases. Under the new restrictions, hospitality venues will have to shut down at 8 p.m. and there should be no indoor events after the curfew. Dutch health experts have advised the Dutch government to adopt a strict lockdown to stem the spread of the Omicron variant of the coronavirus. The concerns are rising to the new variant, which appeared just as previous wave of infection in the Netherlands. South Africa's health minister said the government believed that vaccines and high level of prior COVID-19 infection were helping to keep disease milder in a wave driven by the Omicron variant. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said the spike in cases of Omicron was scary, while the country's top medical official made clear the healthcare system could soon be swamped. COVID-19 case numbers are rapidly increasing in Canada, with several of the 10 provinces reporting big jumps as Omicron replaces Delta.
Best of luck for the Algerian national football team. That's all for this half hour. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.